First off, who wants to start today?
I can start.
Okay. You guys ready to roll then?
Yep, ready to go.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna start and I'll let you know when we're good.
Cool.
All right, we're live.
Sweet. So, so I guess the prompt this week is talking about public leadership during a crisis, and how organizations can prepare for, different crises. And I guess like the textbook covered a lot of different crises that can happen within that involve an organization, like the different types. Like for one of the chapter responses, it went over like a part of the textbook went over 10 different crises and such. And so there's a lot of different, it went over like a part of the textbook went over 10 different crises and such. And so there's a lot of different ways you can prepare for so many things. I guess the ones that I covered were human resource related more than anything. Like the first thing that comes to mind is like, company trainings. I think it's important for companies to have those in place when you're talking about human resources issues. All the time, companies, get a huge negative, get a negative rap on the media, and it impacts them pretty significantly due to stuff like that all the time. Whether it's sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is like a huge thing right now. That's consistently been going on. We've heard about it a lot lately, and so stuff like that. I just think it's important for companies to put specific things involved, and that starts at the top, corporate, making those things and making sure that they require for all employees to complete and sign off on. And then at the entry level, it's important for those new employees to pay attention to what they're hearing and understand, with someone who's just on the entry level, something like that happens, and all of a sudden the entire organization suffers, and it's all over the news, the entire world knows about it. And so it's important that entry-level employees recognize that type of thing as well, just as it is important for the corporate level people to put those procedures in place. So that was kind of the first thing that came to mind when I read the prompt.
Yeah, I would definitely say agree with you in regards to training. However, my question for you is, because I've experienced this myself, is have you ever yourself or noticed at any point that the training really just becomes a check in the box and people become, it happens, the training happens so often, like death by PowerPoint or whatnot, that people just become desensitized by it. It's like, all right, well, I'm just going to get and satisfy the requirement, but they're not actually getting the value out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a thing that happens for sure. And that's kind of what I was talking about when I say it's important that entry-level employees are paying attention to those things. It definitely, we've all done it. I think we're probably all guilty of it. I think I've mentioned this before, that we've all clicked through and gone through the thing, and we don't think anything of it until something like that happens, and then we realize like that stuff really is a big deal and it can affect an entire organization. I think it's probably an issue, to be honest with you. It's probably an organizational issue across many different types of organizations, and I think that maybe the goal would be to come up with a creative new way to inform entry-level employees or all employees about these things, that come up with a creative way to give them the knowledge that they have about these different human resources issues and things that they need to know and rules that they need to follow, instead of just the slideshows or the videos, the lame videos that are 30 minutes long and no one wants to watch. Something that's more something that's more involved, or just a creative, innovative way to get people to really learn about that stuff.
All right. Well, how do you think response plays into like mitigating future incidents? Do you think that like public disciplinary action is appropriate to kind of like set an example, or what do you think of that?
I do think, whenever a company gets a bad rap in the media, something happens. I think a lot of times, or at least in recent times, a lot of times we've heard about people having, disciplinary actions, getting fired. And the company has to do that. They have to take that response. because if it were to come out in any other form, that the entire organization, I mean, there's no way. That's when people start going on strike against companies, and then it's just the downfall from there. So yeah, I mean, disciplinary action is they don't have. I don't think they have another route whenever stuff like that occurs. And I do think it's necessary to show that the organization cares, and that they don't let stuff like that slide, even though it's slid under their noses this time. They're not going to let the negativity, the bad people continue working in their companies and stuff like that. So,
all right, sounds good.
I'll go ahead and jump in. My wife's supposed to be getting home any minute with the kids, so I'm gonna have to go on mute if it gets a lot too loud in here. But I agree with a lot of what you said there, and I really see it as like the whole leadership development versus leader development. I think it's real important to make sure that as many people as possible get a chance to be leaders and get that development themselves. I think if you just focus on a few people, it really hurts your organization because, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, the Good Old Boys Club, or, it's just other things out there where it seems like certain people get tapped on the shoulder and then other people start falling behind because they're too scared to speak up, or they're just feel like, well, that should be your problem to go answer because you're the one that was chosen to be the leader. And I see a lot of that. I think it hinders companies sometimes. And then I was going to say too, as far as the BP oil spill thing, the video we had to watch, I don't know if you guys ever seen that viral video, that commercial that was made about that time. It was pretty funny because it was basically just a real big mockery of BP. And it's kind of the whole public perception thing where there's a couple guys sitting around a conference table and a guy spills coffee, and they come up with all these crazy ideas. The guy even grabs paper towels, but instead of cleaning up the mess, they end up just taking it and writing notes and making designs and try to contain it with arms and cardboard and stuff like that. So, that's about all I got on that.
What was kind of interesting to me with the whole BP thing and reading about it is that there was a member of their organization that was calling it that particular oil platform like the Nightmare Well or something like that. So to me, and some of the things that I've experienced, organizations don't take enough time to be able to plan in that pre-crisis stage. So there were red flags, there were, things that were popping up for BP, but they didn't really pay attention to it. So they could have avoided the whole crisis if they had just paid attention to those red flags. For me personally, going back to the bias training that we recently had at Starbucks, it's kind of weird to me in hindsight that we didn't take the time to make sure that we had all of our partners informed, especially because we tend to pride ourselves on being an organization that is ethical. So we were very reactive in that situation instead of proactive. So I think for organizations to spend much more time in the pre-crisis phase and planning is so important. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Kind of.
You're a little soft this evening.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay. I'll go ahead and chime in. So mine was on, I work for a school district, and we have a crisis prevention team. So they have a training that happens monthly where they meet and then they go over the different crisis and the strategies they're going to use and different things. And we have one coming up on Friday. Our team is putting on a active shooter mock-up on what it would be like if an active shooter was in there, and there's going to be live actors doing the whole thing with students and teachers, and they're all going to have to run through it. And I think that's so important because when you're in a panic situation, and if you're not trained on how to deal with it, especially in a leadership role, you get caught up in that and you get lost in it. So I think it's really important to do that. training on the front end of a crisis?
Yeah, I think that goes into, just looking at teams and leadership in general. Like in a situation like that, it's important that there's like one person identified to be the decision maker who knows what's going on, because everyone else is looking for that person. Like they're gravitating towards them, like following their lead. So like it's important that through not only through training and education, that people that you practice these things, that you do dry runs, they do drills. So when the actual thing happens, it's very natural in terms of the response.
Well, and that's just it. Having those crisis prevention teams, you already know what your role is. Each person has their role, and they know exactly what to do and where to go. And I think then you just don't get caught up. You're prepared.
Yeah, and I think part of that is like implementation of policy as well. Like, hey, this is the written standard operating procedures. These are the tasks assigned to each specific person/section in the building. You're responsible for locking this down and leading these people to rally point A or whatever the case may be, and reporting accountability. And there be outlined specifically in writing, like these are the standard operating procedures that you follow. Like you said, those drills are going to mimic what it says in there, but to make that like official policy. This is how we're going to respond in these circumstances, and that could be for an active shooter, that could be for a natural disaster, that could be for a variety of things.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does definitely seem weird doing those drills and stuff, but it actually came in handy for us. Not that we actually had something happen, but we had a guy come in making threats about wanting to shoot the place up one day, and you would think everybody would kind of freak out, but everybody pretty much remained calm and kind of knew what had to happen and knew where to go in case something did happen. So you just never know.
And is that because you guys have done drills before, or is it just kind of was like natural?
Yeah, so we have a yearly training to do on the internet now, and then they occasionally do a drill too. It's like a fire drill, a tornado drill, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, so something else that we haven't talked about yet that I want to add in, that I had in my notes in regards to how we can prepare leaders for crisis is an important. So we already covered like the training and through education and through practice, like we say like in the Marine Corps, train as you fight, like do it exactly how you're going to do it on game day. You guys probably are familiar with that for sports as well. So another important aspect that came to my mind was having the team study the history and case studies. Like, hey, these are the scenarios in the past that have happened in similar circumstances or similar organizations, and this is how they responded, right? This was good, the trends we saw that were good, or this is what they could have done differently to prevent this or to mitigate the fallout of disaster or whatnot, or the crisis. Like if they did this, then this would have happened, or if they did this well, they were able to stabilize or mitigate circumstances. So I think case studies are very important to see what those, like, we don't always have to recreate the wheel, right? Like the product exists somewhere, we just have to use it. So it's seeing what people in the past have done and mimicking the good behaviors and making modifications to the bad behaviors to find that. That's kind of like how we get our leadership style, right? Like we look at what we like about our leaders and what we didn't. We pick some shows from those to find that perfect balance. And I think that's important as well. Another thing with that, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, another thing to think about. Yeah, that's what I was talking about. So what we can do as well is we can be part of that history, right? So say you guys do a response drill of some sort, or we have an actual crisis. It's important. We do this a lot in the military. Even after action, let's get feedback of, hey, this is what we did well. This is what we didn't do well. This is what we changed about our procedures to help make the process better, right? I'm sure you guys have given recommendations to improve processes, but like I think after action reports, like us just doing something poorly and then just not talking about it is pretty much setting up ourselves and the organization for failure. And if that means that there needs to be a policy change or we need to explore that, then I think that should be the follow-on to fine-tune everything to get us to that optimal point that we need to be at. I would say another thing is to promote situational awareness, like to recognize what potentially could happen based on your workplace or your industry. Like these are the possibilities of what could happen. There could be a natural disaster that burns down this place because I'm in Southern California